we're not going to support an amendment to legislation where First Nations haven't been consulted and where the amendment itself is just window dressing in terms of the flaws with Bill 15. It's pretty clear not something we could support. The first thing is that First Nations across the province have made it clear as part of the interim approach to working with government that they need to be consulted on legislation. So they weren't consulted in a meaningful way on Bill 15. They've been very clear about that. Then an amendment comes forward. They hadn't been consulted on the amendment. So two wrongs don't make a right. The agreement with First Nations that is not being honored by this government is that you work with First Nations. And you know, there's a letter that was released last night or yesterday afternoon from the First Nations Leadership Council and other organizations making it very clear that they expect to be fully consulted and they want the bill withdrawn so that they can actually have that process, and that's what we've been advocating for. The second reason we didn't support the amendment was that it's breadcrumbs. It doesn't address the issues in that bill. It's a throwaway piece of amendment, and so I'm a little respect the minister can have a view on whether or not or disappointment that we didn't support the amendment, but very clearly we're not going to support an amendment to legislation where First Nations haven't been consulted at all and where the amendment itself is just window dressing in terms of the flaws with Bill 15.
And did you make it clear to her yesterday morning that you were not going to support this amendment?
We had a briefing and we learned about the amendment, and then my caucus colleague Jeremy and I reviewed it and made our decision.
So this is too little too late or not enough to start with, I guess?
A little bit of both. Too little too late. It doesn't address the flaws in the bill, and it was dead on arrival in the sense that there was no consultation with First Nations around that amendment, and that's part of the Declaration Act. First Nations and government work meaningfully together to work on legislation. That's at the core of the problem with Bill 15 and the way it's being approached. We've said, pull the bill, take 3-4 months, do the work, bring it back, and then you'll have broad-based support. I don't speak for First Nations, but they've been very clear that there's a lot more work needed to be done. So this should be changed to an exposure bill, and then the time should be taken over the summer to do that consultation, come back in the fall session with a broadly supported bill.